Hello everyone, welcome to Learn DAX channel. My name is Desh and in this video we are going to study the values and distinct functions in Power BI. So values and distinct functions in Power BI essentially work in the same way except for there is a condition in which the output given by the values and distinct functions is going to be different, and that's what we're going to learn from this video. So for the agenda for this video is first of all use a simple table to understand the difference, and then once we have gotten the grip of how it basically works, we are going to use the product and sales data to understand how that difference translates into numbers. So without further ado, let's get started with the video. So for the demo purpose, I have taken, like I mentioned, a simple data set, the first being the alphabets. So the alphabets data set simply has four letters, A, B, C, and D. And the fact table has again A, B, C, and D occurring multiple times, which I'll just show you in just a second. So I go to the table view and I go to the dim table. So the alphabet table has four letters A, B, C, and D, and the fact table has multiple occurrences of the same letters. So just like A is, I think, showing up six times, B is occurring four times, C is occurring three times, and the frequency of D in this case is five. So the relationship between the dimension and fact table at this point is perfect because the primary key and the primary key, which is A, B, C, and D in this dimension table, has corresponding values in the fact table, which corresponds to A, B, C, and D occurring multiple times. So at this point, the relationship between the two tables is perfectly valid. So if we use either the distinct function or the values function, we are going to get the same output. And how that happens, let's just take this demo and understand. So first of all, what I'm going to do is from the dimension table, I will pull out the alphabet. And in order to improve the readability, I will just increase the font size. So yeah, now I've increased the font size. Now what I want to do is I want to create this measure. Let me, if there are any old measures, get rid of them first. So yeah, now let's get started with it. I want to use the values function in order to understand the number of times that the alphabet A has appeared in the dimension table. So I'll write values demo maybe is equal to count rows values, and then I'm going to use the dim table and the alphabet column. So I will bring this here. So the values demo measure is giving us 1 as the occurrence frequency of A, B, C, and D in this particular table, which can be verified because A, B, C, and D are the primary keys in the dimension table and their occurrence frequency is 1. So what if I use the distinct function now? So I'll name this distinct demo is equal to count rows distinct dim alphabet. So I'll pull this measure again onto this table and we'll see how these functions are actually differing or if they're the same. So it is quite evident that the I can see no difference for all the rows. It is showing 1 as the number of times that they are occurring in the dimension table. Now let's do one thing. Let's break this relationship. We are going to subtract some entries from the dimension table. So what that will do is it will leave certain values in the fact table which do not have a corresponding entry in the dimension table. And when that happens, how does the values and distinct function work is what we're going to see. So far, A, B, C, and D had uh, corresponding values in the dimension table to connect with. Now we are going to remove two values from the dimension table and we are going to keep the C and D letters in the fact table as it is. So C and D are now orphaned values. They don't have a corresponding value in the dimension table. And let's see how that affects the values function and the distinct function. So I go here, I will remove the two rows using the Power Query editor. So I'll just remove bottom rows. I'll remove two rows. Like I said, I'll keep A and B. I'll close and apply. and it will refresh this visual. Okay, so here is the difference. See, A and B were the two rows in our dimension table, and corresponding to that, we had A, B, C, and D in the fact table. Now, as per the syntax, the values function should give us the values which are existing in the A in the alphabet table, in the alphabet dimension table. But here you can see that the values is showing up one as the value, whereas the distinct is not giving us any value. So what is the difference? The difference is distinct does not count any blanks that are going to occur in the dimension table, whereas values is going to keep a track of the blanks. Now, some of you would ask, like, there are no blanks here, right? Okay, I'll show you the table. And the dim table, there are no blank values. It's just A and B. So where does this blank value come from? So the blank value is coming from the fact that there are certain values in the fact table which do not have a corresponding match in the dimension table. And values is essentially considering that there are certain values in the fact table which do not have a corresponding entry in the dimension table. And it is considering those values and showing up that there is a blank something, and it is considering that, whereas distinct is not counting those blank values, it is disregarding those blank values, which is why in the first row which has nothing, it is just showing neither a like the first row is showing nothing, then you have A and B, so there's nothing. For that there is some value that values function is giving us as an output, whereas the distinct function is disregarding it. Now let us reconstruct that relationship and let's see if now the values and distinct are behaving the same way. So I go back to the transform data, and what I'm going to do is I will undo this change, I'll close and apply, and I'll refresh this visual. And there you have it. A, B, C, and D have shown up again, and the values and distinct function are giving us identical output. So this was a very basic demo. In the real case scenario, we are not going to deal with alphabets while we are working with Power BI or some data set. So how does this difference translate into maybe some data set where we are going to encounter blank values? And how do we know that there is a difference? And for that purpose, I'm going to take this data set. I've named these tables as category and category details. So let's first take a look at what these tables are. So essentially, the category table has product ID, product name, category, and a subcategory. So this is the dimension table which has unique product ID for each product. And then we have a corresponding fact table, a category details table, which is essentially giving us the sales for these products that have happened for this particular date, for this particular price, in this particular quantity. So there is currently a valid relationship between the category and the category tables because they have been joined based on the product ID, and each product ID in the dimension table has a particular value in our fact table or the category details table. So far so good. If you use the values and distinct function when the relationship between these two functions is valid, we are not going to get any difference in the output, and we are going to verify that in this demo. So let's do this. So I go to the category table, I pull out the category, and again, like I said, I will, or I can pull out the product name so that we can get a higher granularity. So the product name, yeah, I will pull out the product name to get a better granularity. And so I'll just increase the font size to make it more readable. Okay. So now again, let's go with the distinct and values function. I'll create a new measure. I will call it distinct demo 2 is equal to count rows distinct, and I'll call this category product, let's say product name. So I pull it here. So the distinct occurrence of these products in the category table is ones. So which is why we are getting the value as 1. Now I'm going to use the same function, the same quantifier, which is the product name. And then instead of using the distinct function, I'll use the values function and I'll see what difference do we get. I will call it values demo 2 is equal to count rows values category product name. So now I pull out values demo here. So clearly there is a single occurrence for each product name in the category table. So we are getting 1 as the output for each row. And so far we have not encountered any blank rows. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this relationship such that there are going to be certain values in the sales table which do not have a corresponding matching value in the dimension table, so that the join is going to somewhat break. So and then we are going to see the difference. So let's just do that. So I go to transform data and I go to the category table, and what I'm gonna do is I'll remove the bottom 12 rows. So now instead of having 15 products that we initially had, now we are going to be left with only 3 unique products in the dimension table. But however, we have 15 unique products in the fact table. So now the remaining products are not going to have an equivalent connection with the dimension table, and how that is going to affect our output is what we're going to see now. See, now the difference has appeared in front of us. So just like A, B, C, D, what we were doing in just this demo previously, wherein we had removed the C and D, and then the C and D from the fact table did not have a corresponding relationship in the dimension table. So there was a blank row showing up, and it was showing up only in case of a distinct values function, but not in the case of a distinct function, because distinct function disregards any blank values, whereas values function will consider those blank values. Now we have seen the difference between these two. Now let's see what if we reconstruct the relationship again. But before that, I think we can do something more, which is to try and understand what was the sales quantity, what was the total price, or certain of these variables, in order to understand, okay, this is just 1 1 1 1 1, but how does that affect when there have actually happened some transactions where there have happened certain sales for that product, and how that is going to differ, or how that's going to show up in our fact table or in this table. Because in the fact table there are 15 products, there have been 20 sales that have happened, but in this table there are only chair, laptop, and smartphone. So is it going to consider those particular sales, or is it not going to consider? Let's understand. So what I'm going to do is, first I'll create a new measure. I'll call it sales amount is equal to calculate. So what I want to calculate is sum x, the price into quantity. So I'll use category details as the base table, category details price into category details quantity. So what this should give me is, for the product chair, the product laptop, for the product smartphone, what was the sales amount for these particular products. And now I'm curious to know what will happen to the blank row, because how is it going to constitute what was sold and what was not sold, or what was the sold amount for the blank row. So let's see what's going to happen. Okay, so there is certain value that we are getting. So what is this value 8740? See, one thing what we can do is we can verify that from this fact table, I'm going to filter chair, laptop, and smartphone. And then I'm going to verify if this number is adding up. So 21880 and 21880. I'll put the filter chair, laptop, and smartphone to verify if the values which exist are actually showing up correctly. And what is this number 8740 and what exactly it means, what exactly is going to show us. So let's figure that out. So what I'm going to do is in this I'm going to select chair, laptop, and smartphone. So I have the total sales amount for this as 13140. Here it is 21880. That's because I am still considering the blank value. So once I filter out that blank value in this table, let's say product name, and I uncheck this, I get 8740. Or wait, I have to select these three. Okay. So when I select only chair, laptop, and smartphone, then I can tally that this 13140 number is matching up with the number which is 13140. Okay, so the values which had an entry have been tallied. What about the blank values? So what we'll do is I will select the blank first. So it is saying 8140, 8740. Now I'm curious to know how do I implement that in this table. So what I can do is, apart from chair, laptop, and smartphone, show me everything. So I'll uncheck chair, laptop, and smartphone. Okay. So I think this is what we wanted to know. This is what we wanted to verify. When I uncheck the values which were not there in the main dimension table, which is laptop, smartphone, and chairs, they did not have an entry in the dimension table. And so these are the orphaned products that don't have a corresponding entry, which is TV and desk, essentially, those two products. So the sales that has happened, the sales amount for them is 8740. And the measure that we had created, which is the sales amount. So this number is 8740, but because there is no corresponding entry for these two products in the product table or the category table, we get a blank value. So this is a very interesting part wherein we can understand that let's say we are creating a report in Power BI and we have taken the product name or the product ID from the dimension table, and then we have done bunch of aggregations like the average value or the sum of the sales amount or something like that, and then we see a blank row. So now we can have at least one answer to why there can be a blank row and how we can address it. So one thing that we can definitely do is go back to the dimension table and see if there are any values in the fact table which do not have a corresponding entry in the dimension table, and then fix it and then come back and verify our answer. So now what we're going to do is 8740 is showing up as blank. Now I'm going to reconstruct that relationship and to see if now if I'm getting any blank row or not. So again, let's go to transform data. This, by the way, is Power Query Editor. And I go to category and I'll just undo this remove bottom rows. I will close and apply, and then I will unfilter. I will remove these filters, and there you go. We are having all the values. I will also remove this filter. I will refresh this. Sales amount has to add up to 21880. So there you have it. We have verified that the sales amount from this table is matching up with the sales amount in this fact table, and that we have all the things that we wanted to understand covered in this video. That is how distinct referred from the values function. And I hope that by the end of this video, if you are there by the end of this video, that your understanding of values and distinct function has improved, even if it is very slightly. I'll be very happy. And if you think that this video added any value to your understanding for the values and distinct function, I'd be very happy if you share it with your friends. And at the end of this video, before I say happy learning, I'm just gonna say today is a special day for me because it's the birthday of one of my mentors, and I would just wanted to mention that thank you to him. And yeah, at the end of the video, I'm going to say happy learning and thanks for watching.